Hi everyone. Tonight I got you guys with some disturbing Reddit stories. If you guys like this type of content, let me know and I will post more. Anyways, sit back, get comfy, and enjoy. When people hear my wife's Russian, they imagine a tall blonde girl with a funny accent who wears heels for every grocery run. Reality couldn't be farther from the stereotype. Lana is dark-haired, speaks better English than I do, and is completely obsessed with sneakers. She does meet one stereotype, though. She never gets cold, seeing how she lived in Russia until she was 18. Not in Moscow, of course. Did you know that Moscow's actually pretty warm? There are entire states in America where winters are far colder than anything Muscovites ever have to deal with. No, my wife comes from a tiny town far up Russian north on the tundra. A dark, gloomy, and a very cold place inside the Arctic Circle with extremely harsh winters and even harsher people. A place that meets the stereotypes. I've met my in-laws all of 2 times, including our wedding, both times as they traveled to the States. Frankly, I never had any intention of visiting my Lana's hometown until she got that fateful call 9 days ago. My mother-in-law had had a stroke. While her condition was stable for the time being, the local doctor expected the worst could happen at any minute. Transporting her to a better hospital was out of question as she was in no state for the kind of a journey that you'll see described below. My wife made travel arrangements immediately. I had a valid Russian visa from a business trip to Moscow a few weeks prior, so I decided to go with her. Now, getting to my wife's hometown isn't easy. You're in for a flight to Moscow, then a connecting flight to Norilsk, one of the biggest cities in the Russian tundra. From there, it's an hour-long trip down the Yenisei River by barge in summer and on cars over ice in the winter. Urgently getting to Moscow wasn't that hard. There, however, we faced additional difficulties. First of all, apparently I couldn't actually fly to Norilsk with Lana, as the city was closed to foreigners. Before we could even process that, we were told that Norilsk Airport was closed for all aircraft due to poor weather conditions, and the weather wasn't expected to improve that week. I tried to console Lana as best as I could, but news of her mom getting worse drove her crazy. Soon, Lana suggested an alternative. It was possible to fly to a city a fair bit south of Norilsk, which was safe from the storms. For a modest fee, a family friend living there was willing to take a day's journey up the ice road to Lana's hometown. Well, more like a night's journey, since according to him, it was better to travel at night by cars' lights than by what passed as daylight. I told my wife she was insane. She, however, was adamant on her plan, saying she's done Zimnik, how Russians call their ice roads, many times with her dad, and it was perfectly safe. She wouldn't budge no matter how I pleaded, and told me I was welcome to stay in Moscow. Obviously, that was not an option, and in the end, I gave up. We flew to our next destination, and the cold hit me as soon as I stepped out of the plane. It was a different kind of cold, invasive and ruthless, and it didn't care about layers of sweaters and socks I had on. I shivered imagining how much colder it was going to get. Asterisk, we met with the trucker who was to take us up north. He called himself Kolya, and my wife, Sveta, the Russian version of her name. Me, he didn't call at all, instead referring to me derisively as Mr. Amerikashka whenever he spoke to my wife. Lana told me with a chuckle she didn't tell Kolya I could understand Russian, although I don't think he would have cared. Kolya was supposed to be a few years younger than my wife, but looked much older. His skin and posture worn down by the harsh conditions of his homeland. He laughed at our American shoes and coats and said he would pack extra jackets. Woolen socks and Valinki for us, just in case. His brother helped load his truck, which looked like it had seen the fall of the Soviet Union. And then Kolya sat down to enjoy a shot of vodka. One for the road. My wife saw me blanch at that. "This isn't New York, or even Moscow," she said quietly. "People here are a bit behind in terms of DUI. Don't worry, he won't drink enough to get impaired. He's seen that kill people on the road." Well, indeed, the first shot was the last, and Kolya hopped into the truck. He offered my wife the shotgun seat, which, as far as I understood Russian macho culture, was basically equivalent of throwing a glove in my face. Whatever, as long as he got us there. The road was a dark stretch of ice and packed snow powdered by the fresh snow that had fallen that morning. Snowdrifts bordered both sides of the roads and leaked onto its surface a fair bit. Otherwise, it was the same barren flat surface for miles. In the first couple of hours, we saw a few cars going the opposite way to us. Then a car going in the same direction as us overtook us and disappeared in the darkness ahead at surprising speeds. It was a freaking tiny rusted-through Subaru. I gave up on understanding Russians then and there. Shortly after the Subaru guy, it started snowing. Just a bit at first, then more and more. Kolya didn't seem bothered, and I tried to stay calm as well, which I managed mostly successfully until the wind joined in. Unlike the snow, it started hard from the get-go. Have you ever heard wind howling and become unsettled by the sound? Now imagine the same, but in the depths of a black night lit only by your car's headlights. Except for your own vehicle, the world around is silent and devoid of life, frozen until the spring. Not that you can see much through the thick snow that is now the wind's plaything, flurrying around the car, blanketing the windows. Our pace slowed to a crawl as Kolya swore colorfully in Russian. "Maybe stop and wait it out," I suggested nervously. "We can't," Lana said without bothering to ask our driver. "If we stop, there's a good chance the car won't start up again, and we're stuck here waiting for someone to pick us up. And it's been empty today." The realization we were at a very real risk of freezing to death hit me like a ton of bricks. I leaned back into my seat and closed my eyes, wordlessly praying for the best. The only response was the wind howling, and it sounded so strange. It would start low and quiet and then get louder and louder until a yelling crescendo, then cut off abruptly, then start again. And the sound came from different directions, each starting at a different time, like a pack of wolves howling. I opened my eyes to obvious tension in the car. Lana and Kolya were both hunched forward, peering intently through the glass for all the good it did them. Kolya glanced back at me. "Don't worry, be happy," Kolya proclaimed with a horrible Russian accent. "It is all okay. Don't worry, America." He was lying. I might have been useless on the ice road, but I was a criminal defense lawyer, and a good one at that. And Kolya was a bad liar. There was sweat beading on his face and neck, and his voice was forced. He was very much scared, and that made me scared too. Kolya murmured something to my wife, too quick and quiet for my distracted mind to decipher. She nodded. "What was that?" "There's a village maybe half an hour up the road, if we keep this pace. We get there and settle down until the morning." "I see. Sorry about the delay." In reality, I was extremely happy to hear that. "Bad wind, huh?" Lana grabbed my hand, quick and sudden as a snake. "Don't mention the wind." Another sound came through the storm, a long, tinny wail that sent shivers down my spine. It took me a few moments to recognize the familiar sound of the wind whistling through walls and chimney, and then another moment to realize there were no fucking walls around for the wind to whistle. I opened my mouth to comment, and my wife's grip tightened on my arm. In that moment, I knew to keep it quiet. We drove in tension-filled silence as a cacophony of sounds erupted through the storm. Wails and shrieks, howls and cries. No way, no fucking wind was producing all of that. The sounds grew closer, grew louder. I grabbed my wife's hands as we both stared desperately ahead. Through the flurry, we barely made out something, a large, dark shape reflecting our lights, or maybe piercing the darkness with lights of its own. Kolya swore and swerved to the side. We were passing another car stuck in the snow. Its blinkers flashed. "Stop," Lena said, sudden and harsh. "What?" Kolya asked in Russian. "You insane?" "Stop," my wife repeated. "On the ice road, you help." "That's the rule, remember?" Kolya gave her a long, hard look that I didn't like at all. "That's the rule on the road?" He echoed and hit the brakes, slowing the car without actually stopping. I opened the door and peered outside. The driver of the stuck vehicle was already running towards us. I recognized the car itself as the Subaru that passed us earlier. "Thank God you people were," the driver began. "Get in, idiot," Kolya shouted, and the guy shut up and jumped in. He was just a kid, no older than 20, with dark red hair and a patchy little beard. He looked cold and terrified. "Thank God," he repeated in a hushed whisper. I was sure they'd get me. They? I asked, confused. Kolya and Lana turned to look at the kid in unison, and their looks could kill. The wind and snow, the kid corrected quickly. I had a sudden abrupt feeling that it was too late for that, even as I still had no clue what was going on. We drove on, and the interplay of howls and shrieks outside the car became unbearable in the silence. "What's your name, dude?" I asked him in my best Russian. He blinked. Sergei Molchanov. My parents are... Anyway, it doesn't matter. I shouldn't have been driving, but I wanted to make it to my girlfriend's birthday, and... Both of you shut up, my wife barked, and we did. Immediately, I noticed the change in surrounding sounds. They were much louder now. The highest pitched shrieks rang in my ears. The low, insistent howling seemed to surround the car, and every now and then, something that sounded like an actual roar cut through the night. The car picked up the pace. I looked at Kolya and realized he was absolutely flooring the gas pedal. Poor visibility be damned. His truck was lurching along as fast as it could manage in the conditions, and yet the encroaching racket made it obvious we were nowhere near fast enough. Then the car hit something. We were all jerked forward as the truck came to a staggering halt. I hit my temple hard on the back of my wife's seat. "What was that?" I groaned. "Must have hit a chunk of ice or something." Lana's voice sounded strangely muffled. I remember focusing on her lips and how pale and thin they looked. The dull, resounding pain in my head exploded into something hot and overwhelming, and I collapsed into the back seat. "He's passed out," Sergei called out. I wanted to correct him, but my voice wouldn't obey me. My lids seemed to weigh a ton each. I could barely open my eyes enough to see the trio of Russians huddled together, the car's flickering light illuminating their pale faces. "What now?" Sergei asked nervously. "Well, let's see. I don't think I would have been able to understand complex Russian in that state. If it wasn't my Lana speaking, her voice so familiar down to every inflection. Why don't you go out and check what we hit and if we can clear it out somehow?" "What? We helped you, didn't we?" In the car's light, Lana's green eyes seemed very blue. "So why don't you help us back? After all, on the ice road you help each other. That's the rule." Kolya grumbled in agreement. Then he reached over and pulled out a rifle and aimed it at the boy. Sergei whimpered. "You know they're out there?" "Well," Lena's voice was impeccably calm, cold. "I guess you'd better not speak about them out loud then. Better not even think about them, really." My eyes closed against my will. I heard a door swing open and a rush of cold air. Finally, I passed out for real, and in my unconsciousness, I dreamed of horrified screaming and a single terrible roar that filled the night. I came to during the day on a couch of some local family that agreed to house us for a bit of cash. My wife fussed over me. Once she was sure I was conscious and lucid, She rushed me into the car, saying we could do the rest of the drive by day, and an actual doctor could look at me in her hometown. I settled in the backseat of the car. Vague memories haunted me. Where's the kid, Sergey? What kid, darling? Lana asked in sincere surprise. There was no kid. We traveled alone, Kolya added in Russian. And I wondered how he knew what I was asking about, or that I'd understand his answer. But aloud, I could only say, this young red-headed guy. Sweetie, I'm getting really worried. You must have hit your head harder than I thought. We gotta get you checked out as soon as we get back to the States. Maybe even a good checkup in Moscow. I didn't really know what to say after that. We made it the rest of the way uneventfully. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law had slipped into unconsciousness before we even set out for our drive, and she passed away several hours after our arrival. Lana didn't even get to say a proper goodbye. She is absolutely devastated right now, so I'm trying my best to focus on comforting her. We're staying here until the funeral, and I can't say I'm looking forward to the ride back. My father-in-law graciously gifted me a proper Russian winter coat, so I went ahead and packed my American camel coat that proved terribly insufficient for the weather. As I was folding it, I noticed a few curly red hairs stuck to the light beige fabric, and I felt so cold. I can't leave my bathroom. About 30 minutes ago, I got out of the shower and dried off, put on my PJs, opened the door and walked out, only to find myself back in my bathroom, staring at the closed door. I stopped and tried to rationalize what had just happened to me. I convinced myself that I had simply imagined that I had opened the door and stepped out, so I tried again. I pushed the door handle down, opened it, stepped out, and yet again found myself in my bathroom, standing in front of a closed door. This has happened every single time I've tried to leave. I keep my phone in the bathroom with me when I'm showering. I live alone, so I keep it with me just in case, for safety. The first thing I did was call my parents. My dad didn't pick up, but my mom did. I tried to explain the situation to her, but she couldn't seem to understand how I was trapped in my bathroom if the door could open. She seemed convinced that I must mean that my bathroom door's lock was broken and I was trapped inside. Regardless, she said that she would be over ASAP. She only lives a 15-minute drive away, so she should be here any moment. I'm sat leaning against my bathtub, looking out the open bathroom door into my landing. I opened it this time, but didn't try to step out. Everything looks normal. My bedroom door is closed just as I left it. The airing cupboard door closed as well. The stairs leading down to the hallway and the front door, all normal. The door is shut. I don't have any recollection of how it's shut. When it shut, only that it must have happened in the last few seconds after I wrote that last paragraph. I've just reread that paragraph. It's proof that I'm not going crazy in imagining this. My mom just texted me to ask if I'm in the house. I said yes, of course I am. I'm trapped in the bathroom. That's the whole reason that I called you here. This is what she has sent. Mom, why aren't you saying anything? Me, what do you mean, Mom? Are you even in there? Me, yes, I'm in here. Are you here? Mom, I'm outside the bathroom door. I've been calling your name, I don't understand. I can't hear anything through the door. I'm going to open it. I can see my landing, my stairs, my front door, but no Mom. I tried to walk out, but it was fruitless. Back staring at the closed bathroom door. My mom tried the handle of the door from her side, but it won't open. She brought tools to unscrew the lock. She says she's doing it now, but I can't hear anything, and I can't see the handle moving. Okay, Mom texts me to say the lock is taken out, but the door still won't open on her side. She looked through the circular hole in the door where the lock was, but just saw my bathroom. Empty. There's no hole on my side of the door. The handle and lock are intact. I have no idea what's happening or how I can get out. After much convincing my mom that I am in fact in here, she said she is calling someone to possibly knock the door down. I'm worried that once they do that, they will find an empty bathroom, and yet I will still be here, trapped in my bathroom. There's no plug sockets in here, never mind my phone charger. My phone will die at some point. I'm already on 24%. When it runs out, I might lose my only point of contact with the rest of the world. I don't know what to do. Mom's left now to get help. I'm sat wondering what I can do. I tried to break the door down myself. I knew it wouldn't work, but I had to try. I remember reading once on Reddit that you shouldn't use your shoulder. You should try to kick the door by the lock because it's the weak point. It didn't work. I'm not sure any part of this door has a weak point now. The window is small, and I'm not sure if I'd actually be able to fit out of it. Scratch that, the window won't open either. There are locks on the windows in my house. You can lock them with a little key, but I never received any when I moved in, so I've never been able to lock them. It's locked now though. It's got one of those white plastic cheap blinds covering it. I ended up ripping it down. It's pulled some plaster down with it, but now I can get at the window better. It's straight above the toilet, so I am kneeling on top of the toilet lid, yanking at the window handle. It won't. Wait, it opened. I didn't notice how dark it was outside. It shouldn't be dark, it's midday. I looked around, desperately trying to see anyone. No one's around. Everything looks kind of muted. I can't describe it. Nor can I describe the deep-seated feeling of dread and wrongness as I look out into my neighborhood. My instincts are telling me not to, but I stick my head out to look down to where I could possibly drop to. My window's closed. I never felt myself move, but my window's closed. Even the fucking plastic blind is back in place. I'm sat on the floor now, as far away from the window and door as I can get. I feel sick. Mom came back along with her work friend. He helped her unscrew the hinges and remove the door. I'm not in there. They can't see me. My mom sent a photo of her inside the bathroom with no me. She thinks this has all been a joke and is refusing to reply to my texts or answer my calls. I'm on 14% battery. I don't know if I will ever get to leave. This might be my only chance to say goodbye to my mom, but she won't answer her phone. Edit, I've ripped down the shower curtain and yet I'm staring at it right now, hung up, hanging over the side of my bath. I looked out the window again. I think I heard a rumbling. Low, quiet rumbling. I haven't opened the window since. My phone's on 1%. If I get out, I will update this post. If no edit comes, assume I'm still here. Her name was Emma. That's what everyone called her anyways. Sometimes they would call her Em. Sometimes someone would slip up and call her Emily. She was a part of our group of girlfriends growing up in a large town. Not quite big enough to be a city, but big enough that there was still privacy between neighbors. We called ourselves the Unbreakable Six because there was me, Summer, Mel, Nina, and Jules. And there was Emma. Emma started off as a practical joke by the other girls in the 4th grade. It was probably Jules that started it. She was always playing pranks of people. In high school, she even got suspended once for going too far and had to babysit for hours to buy that girl a new cell phone. Or maybe it was Summer, who always seemed too busy with music and band to think of such an elaborate prank. Or maybe it was Mel and Nina, who were best friends and could have lived without us, always conspiring together like they were twin sisters. Either way, I bought my lunch, cold cut sandwich and carrot sticks, and a pint of orange juice. I couldn't stand milk. It would account for how short I ended up being, and walked over to our lunch table. Jules looked excited, waving me over to them. Lot, look. I wasn't sure where I was supposed to be looking. This is Emma. She moved here from Los Angeles. We lived far inland and into the boonies. Los Angeles was glitzy and glamorous and chic compared to the flat houses and half rate. High school football, that was the only real source of entertainment in the area. What? Los Angeles, dummy, Jules said, rolling her eyes. She's not in our class. She's in Miss Lark's, but she's the same grade as us. Isn't that cool? I still wasn't sure where I was supposed to be looking. I sat down with my tray uneasily, wondering what I was supposed to see. Who? Summer jabbed me in the side. You're being rude, she hissed quietly. Summer was all about rules and manners. Say hi to Emma. I looked around our table, from Jules to Mel to Nina to Summer and back to Jules, who was waiting impatiently. I don't know. I was weak. I wanted to fit in. I didn't get it. Hi, Emma. They seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief, like I was making everything awkward. Charlotte's weird sometimes, but her brother has a Nintendo that he lets us play sometimes. They kept on talking, chatting about whatever fourth grade girls chat about, and I ignored it. If they wanted to play that prank, then that was fine. I wasn't going to buy into it. I was always a precocious child. I knew that what they were looking for was a reaction. That's how Emma became a normal part of our lives. It was crazy. We would buy her birthday presents, and they'd disappear like they were taken. I wonder how many candle-making kits and Moncala games Jules had piling up in her closet after all these birthdays. One year, Mel even got Emma a really nice necklace, and that disappeared too. We never went to her house. I asked Nina about it when I was sure that Emma wasn't there. She gave me this scandalized look. Law, don't be rude. Emma's family doesn't have that much money. She's embarrassed to let us come over. She told Mel that, who told me, and it makes sense. I mean, what she wears all the time. I mean, we still love her, we'll always love her, she's one of us. But don't rub in the fact that we can't go to her house. That's mean. After I was scolded so wholeheartedly by Nina, I didn't ask again. They were covering their bases really well, and by 7th grade, I had to accept that they were taking this prank all the way. It was weirdly comforting in a way. There was this silent friend that I never saw, but she was always around. We would leave seats open for her, and when we did the buddy system, someone always had Emma walk into the bathroom by herself. When we decided that we wanted to be lame and come up with a name for our group of friends, we decided on the Unbreakable Six, even though there were really only 5 of us. I was curious in sophomore year of high school when we were having a sleepover. Summer was at band practice late and Emma couldn't make it. She had to work on her science project, according to Mel. So I asked Jules, the likely mastermind behind it all, if you were going to write a story about Emma, like her biography, how would you describe her? Down to every detail? Jules loved stuff like that. She wanted to be a writer someday. Well, she's taller than you, which isn't hard. I threw a pillow at her that she dodged deftly. She's medium build. Jules dropped her voice to a whisper, even though she gained a little weight recently, but we're not going to tell her, and she's still beautiful. And she has green eyes and brown hair, and she's got freckles. She hates getting her picture taken. She's nice but quiet, and she dances really beautifully. I mean, you've seen her, right? Of course, that time a few months ago when we turned on some music and danced around together to practice dancing at homecoming, so we didn't look weird or do it wrong. We stopped after a while and hit and awed at empty space for a while. I didn't ask any more questions. I knew that they would keep up the charade for as long as they could manage. It was in our senior year of high school that it happened. I don't know why it set me off, not really. It was something little, something stupid. We were hanging out in Nina's pool, even though it was still too cold to swim. Teeth chattering and goosebumps rising on our skin, we were waiting for the jacuzzi to heat up to jump in. The cold sunlight cast a long shadow, and the wine coolers we snuck earlier was making that shadow seem menacing. It was annoying for me for reasons I can't place. "Look at Emma lot," Jules called. She wolf whistled and hooted, over the top like Jules always is. "Hot mama, look at that booty." I didn't know where to look, like always. Like, for the past 9 years of my life, I didn't know where to look. Since the 4th grade at our lunch table, dancing in Summer's living room, homecoming, football games, at the park, in class, anywhere, I didn't know where to look because Emma wasn't there. That's when I snapped. "Fuck Emma," I screamed. "And fuck all of you. Have you been waiting for this?" The moment I completely lose my fucking mind. Well, here it is. I waved my arms around, manic and furious. Emma isn't real. Emma isn't fucking real. I looked at their confused faces. "Oh, you're gonna keep this up? I fucking hate you guys. You've always done this. Made me the butt of your stupid prank for almost 10 years, guys. 10 years. I slipped a little on the wet concrete, but regained my balance. "Fuck you. I hate you so much." Tears welled in my eyes, years and years of pent-up frustration finally spilling over. Emma was some stupid prank that got out of hand, and I can't believe that none of you ever had the balls to tell me that it was a stupid prank. No, it had to keep going. You had to keep laughing behind my back. It's not fair. Summer was furious. "Lot, don't fucking be this way. Emma is right there and you're being a bitch. Why are you doing this? Are you mad?" Mel spoke up in a tiny voice. "Lot, you look hot too. I mean, you look good in your bathing suit too." "Yeah, but don't take out your anger on Emma, God," Nina said, rolling her eyes. Nina walked over to the side of the pool and reached out a hand, like she was rubbing someone's back. "It's okay, Emma. Lot's just under a lot of stress right now, figuring out where she wants to go for college." "Shut up," I howled miserably. "Stop it, stop it, stop it. Anna isn't real. She's not there. How could you guys do this to me?" They were starting to look scared. They were really invested in this prank. I wondered what the endgame was. When were they going to start laughing? When were they going to jump up and say, "Gotcha"? I had enough of this. If they wanted to play charades, then let's play charades. The next part was a blur. I don't remember it, not even now. But I walked over to where Emma was and I kicked at the air. I heard a scream and I slipped on the slick, wet concrete and hit my head. There was blood everywhere. There was so much screaming, but I kept on kicking and punching and fighting until I blacked out completely. I came to a day later in the hospital. My parents were there, and so were my friends. They were pale and tired and miserable looking. My heart panged. I must have really scared them. When my parents left, Jules approached me. She took my hand. She began crying. The others stared, crying too. "I'm sorry, Lot," she wept. "I'm really sorry." It was almost frightening looking at the way my friends were. They were beside themselves in the privacy of the hospital room. I started crying too. I wasn't sure why, but I started stammering apologies too, like if we all said sorry things could go back the way they did. "I'm sorry," I cried. Summer was the only one who didn't look like she forgave me completely. She looked at me, eyes red and cheeks pink and wobbly chinned, and said, "Are you?" I didn't have to answer. The nurse came in to change the bandages on my head. For the rest of the year, no one mentioned Emma. Emma only belonged to our tight-knit group of friends. So there was no mention of Emma. One time, a cop came to the principal's office, and Mel and Nina were quick to drag us away. After the accident, I withdrew from everyone. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't go to Summer's recital. I didn't go to Mel's birthday party. I didn't do anything. I didn't go to prom, just stared at the ceiling, wondering what had happened. Emma was in most of my life, and now she felt like a ghost. I graduated high school and left immediately to go to a university far away in Southern California, where the weather was always perfect and the beach was a 5-minute walk away. I started to recover. I realized that I was depressed after what had happened, understanding that my best friends chose a punchline over me. Unbreakable 6, yeah, right. I got good grades, volunteered at an animal shelter, found a boyfriend. He was so nice to me, even when I got quiet when he asked about high school. He never pushed, just held me when I had bad days and made me pancakes. It was 4 years later, when I was about to finish up college, when I ran into an old classmate from high school. Her name was Annie. She hung out with a different crowd than me and my friends. Most people did. With 6, the 5 of us were a clique of our own, separated from everyone else. I ran into her in our apartment complex. It turns out that she was living there the whole time and we didn't know. I wasn't necessarily friends with her, but overreacted the way you do when you see someone that you haven't seen in a long time. It's been forever. Oh my God. I went to her apartment for coffee and saw that she was packing up her things. Moving back home for a while until I find a job, yuck. I saw a thick book on the sofa. Oh, yeah, that's our senior yearbook. I was flipping through it when I found it in my bookshelf. I didn't bother getting a yearbook. I didn't have friends at the end of high school, but I was curious to see what I looked like back then, if I had gained or lost weight, if my skin had gotten any better. I opened up the first page and was instantly confused. For Emma, I read aloud from the first page. It was a dedication. My mind raced. Was there someone named Emma in our year? Yeah, it's really sad what happened to her, Annie said, handing me a mug of hot coffee. I flipped through the yearbook, looking for a trace of Emma. Then I found it. My heart stopped, mouth going dry. My hands shook as I held the yearbook, looking at the photograph. It was a picture of the Unbreakable 6. We stood with our arms slung around hips and shoulders, sticking close together for the photograph. There was Summer at the end, then me, then Jules, then Mel, then Nina, then... I had never seen this girl before in my life, never, but there she was. I can't even remember getting this picture taken. She was right there at the end. Green eyes, brown hair, muffin top, shy smile, threadbare shirt and ripped jeans, looking straight at the camera like the rest of us. She looked as normal as can be, just another teenage girl. Annie looked over my shoulder. Oh, there you all are. What did you call yourselves again? What happened to her? I couldn't even touch her photograph, just let my shaking finger hover over her face. Annie fell quiet. Well, I guess you might not really remember that well after your head injury. And you just kind of faded away from everything, stopped doing much at all. But Emma disappeared, out of nowhere. The cops came by once to ask questions, but her parents were both poor and junkies, so no one really cared. Just another girl that disappeared. I left Annie and went back to my apartment, the one I shared with my boyfriend. He took one look at my face and started boiling some water for tea, grabbed a blanket to throw over my shoulders. I pulled away from him, locked myself in my room. I stared at the ceiling. I was eating again, lost and confused. The girl's green eyes haunted me. Emma's eyes haunted me. I went on Facebook and found my old friends, my best friends, and I told them, please meet me back at home. It's important. I returned back to our big town little city, went to the newest Starbucks, and waited. They trickled in, one by one. Jules, small-time blogger who works at an Italian restaurant until she made it big. Summer, brown and freckled from band camp, coaching kids for their field shows. Nina, the hot librarian at their old high school. Mel, her belly swollen with her second child, wedding ring secured to her left hand by her high school sweetheart. My friends were not the same, and neither was I. I cut to the chase. I couldn't spare a moment for small talk. What happened to Emma? They exchanged uneasy glances. They knew this was coming. Nothing, Jules said with finality. Emma wasn't real. She was just a trick, Nina said softly. She was a prank. I figured they might pull this shit. I reached into my bag and slammed the yearbook down on the table, making our drinks rattle and one fall over, spilling tea onto the ground. No one moved to try to pick it up. They stared at the yearbook instead. Emma was real, I finally whispered. Emma was real. What happened to her? Nothing. Cut the crap, Jules. Summer snapped. She turned to me. Lot, you killed Emma that day by the pool. You went nuts and kicked her and kept kicking her when you slipped and fucked up your head. And you bashed her head and she fell in the pool and it was too late to save her and we had to worry about you and... Summer. Jules shrieked, swatting her in the arm. I was silent, absorbing what Summer said. Mel spoke up in a tiny voice. Lot, we weren't going to let you go to jail. I looked up at my friends, tears running down my cheeks. Why? Nina reached across the table and took my hand. She squeezed it hard. Because we're the unbreakable six. We don't break because one went crazy and another's dead. I excused myself to the restroom and wept for what seemed like hours. It couldn't have been that long, but there were angry knocks on the door from other patrons who needed the restroom. I sat there on the dirty floor, sobbing until I had cried everything out. I came out where my friends, my best friends, were still waiting. I sat down in my seat and faced them. I want to turn myself in. There was an outcry of different responses. Summer seemed willing, ready to have me turn myself into the police. Jules yelled out about them all getting in trouble. Mel started to cry. You don't have to, Nina said. You don't have to. We got rid of all the evidence. We buried her far away where no one would find her. I want to turn myself in, I repeated firmly. I killed her. I'll tell the cops that it was just me, that I buried her. Tell me where she is so I can tell them where I put her. None of you will get in trouble. It wasn't your fault. I thought I had finished crying. I thought I had nothing left, but I choked out what I wanted to say for so long. I never saw her. They looked at me expectantly. I never saw her, not even once. I thought it was just a big prank you were playing on me. I didn't want you to laugh at me. The girl in the yearbook, I had never seen her before. I just played along. Nina nodded. I thought it was weird that you were always so cold to her. Like you didn't even acknowledge her. She really liked you, Mel said. She thought you were so smart that you were going to go out in the world and do amazing things. She would always talk about that. I felt as though my heart would burst. I swear I never saw her. Something must be wrong with me, but I never saw her or heard her. I cleared my throat. Show me where you buried her. We got into Summer's car and drove out far into a park in a different city. The park was huge and overgrown, like no one had been there to take care of it in a long, long time. I got out of the car and left behind by a worker long ago was a rusty shovel. I took it with me. Jules led the way deep into the park, deep through the trees, until we came to a small clearing. The dirt wasn't fresh. There were no markers or indicators, but the way my friends' faces paled at the sight, I knew this was it. Emma was there under our feet. I gotta see her, I whispered. I ducked the shovel into the ground. I gotta see her. Mel didn't want to see anything, so she and Nina left back for the car. Jules and Summer found different tools, a hoe and a rake, and we started digging. Blisters rose and popped on my hands from the old shovel, but I kept digging as beads of sweat rolled down my neck, my back. The three of us worked together in silence, digging up our best friend. Suddenly, Summer jumped back in disgust, throwing her hoe aside. Jules did the same, stepping out of the hole. We looked down. Summer gagged, covering her mouth and nose, and Jules shook her head at the sight. Me? I laughed and laughed and laughed, tears streaming down my face, laughing until it hurt as I looked down into an empty grave.